Okay. Well, good morning. Sorry that did not have audio. I don't know what happened there, but I'll look into it. Good morning. Hey, Dad. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good.
Peter, thanks for putting that in the chat because I legitimately was not sure if that was just me or um, or if that was real life. So as it turns out, this is real life. So, well, of course, this morning we've got our good buddy Zakanin. Of course, set his alarm. Appreciate you, brother. Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
Jerk in the
You're
house. Fantastic. Going over to Newburgh Toy Show, I assume, soon. No? Good to see you. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Cliff, good morning, sir. Good morning. Got some of your heads over here ready to get started. Talib. Joe Hunter. Good morning. Good morning. Morning,
Good
Mom.
morning.
Headcan. Well. What's going on here? You folks trying to have fun without me? Wouldn't dream of it. Wouldn't dream of it. We're glad you showed up. We're happy about that. J Mac. Good morning. Well, we've got some stuff to talk about. We hope y'all are into it. Stacy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Zakaden, you're not on stream, but if you could go ahead and shout Stacy, that would be good. Appreciate you, brother. Good morning, Peter. Son of a Crayon Slayer. Good morning. Ooh. Oh, God.
Oh, that
That's
sucks.
terrible. Ugh. Yeah, that sounds just awful. Well, we haven't done one of these in a while, and that's on both of us. We've been kind of hectic and chaotic lately, so we're trying to get back on track. We've been working on things. John has been working on lots of things.
I have.
You really kind of taken the 3D modeling and printing by the reins as of late.
Yeah, it's something you just when you decide to do something, you just have to do it. Sometimes life gets a little hectic and crazy, but you gotta do something. So I think so. Today I wanted to talk about kind of what we're going to do here with a couple of kooks. We had said we wanted to do this to do tutorials and customizing for 112 scale. Eventually, that will leak out into larger scales too. But for now, we are going to focus on 112 scale. I put together a PowerPoint presentation to show you guys what we have going on. The awesome thing when Mikey and I decided to do this, we were trying to find a way that we could kind of umbrella both of our LLCs. Mikey has his JMK Custom Works, and I have a little one called KUK-O Toy Workshop, which I haven't done anything with in a long time, so it's time to do that. KUK-O Toy Workshop will focus on 3D modeling and things like that for our customs. And then Mikey with JMK Custom Works will still do painting. We'll have a way for you to fill out a form online and send it to him like, hey, this is what I want, and he can give you a quote back. Also, that the nice thing about it is it makes me his kind of default 3D printer and modeler for things that you guys might ask for that he doesn't have yet. So that is how this is going to kind of work. So KUK-O Toy Workshop will have. I'm not sure if it's going to be an Etsy page or if I'm just going to go straight to a Shopify store. But either way, I'm not going to sell 3D files. I'm going to sell prints. I've seen too many guys do 3D files and they just kind of get lost out there. So I don't want to do that. And I really wanted to do something that grows Mikey's business as well as keeps me occupied. So that's kind of
points of light coming
1,000
together.
points of light coming together. Yes, all of that.
Morning, Will. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Well, So that's kind of a rundown. Today we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you guys these new kits we have. We've been to two toy shows, not big ones. We went to AR in November with our setup. That was our thumbnail. You'll see a better picture of that here in a little bit. And then a few weeks ago, we went to a local toy show at a pretty big store called Peddler's Post in Bolivar, Missouri, which is about 2 hours south of Mikey and a half hour north of me. That store, Rob Ross, is the owner, and that store is fantastic. If you are in Missouri ever, like, his vintage toy stuff is awesome. He has so much stuff. The place was originally like a pawn shop, and so it's got several different floors of different things, but the main floor is vintage toys, and he specializes in GI Joe. So it's a great place to visit, and I worked there for a little while. Helped Rob out a little bit. So if you're in this area, please go check it out. Yeah. But the thing was, at that show, we've kind of been developing how we want to present, how we want to show things. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm gonna get this thing going to where I can show you exactly what we're doing. So if anybody doesn't know or hasn't seen our setup,
appreciate you, Joe Hunter. Yes,
thank you.
Please hit that like button. Appreciate that. J-Max says he needs a toy community head pack. That's a lot of heads.
That is a lot of heads.
You're just getting started into sculpting heads, though.
Yeah, sculpting heads is I can sculpt a head, but hair kicks my ass right now. So
we'll see your head sculpting here in a moment.
Yeah, you will. So, all right, you want me to get going with this? You ready to start this?
Yeah, go ahead. Morning, Mo.
I will.
As the Beastie Boy said, kick it.
Kick it indeed. All right, here we go. So there's us. This is at AR, and you see our setup here. I'm going to kind of go through that and show you what we were doing. So Mikey had said in the preview on YouTube that we were going to talk about Palitoy stuff. This special team that Greg Hughes worked on in early 1980s, late 70s. He was kind of going away from Action Man. Had really focused on doing military-based, real-world stuff. And Greg kind of said, "Well, what if we did like some futuristic stuff?" And they created special teams, which was actually 3 figures. There's a diver in that mix, and then there was a 4th one that didn't really make it to mass production. There are a few samples out there, but the 2 main ones were these 2. I love these kits. They're kind of, you can really tell when they were made. They are very ill-fitting, but they're cool. The concept is awesome. This art looks pretty good. It's just kind of fun. So anyway, this was the inspiration that kind of started where we're going. When Bob Brecken was working on Action Force, the first wave of Action Force was basically a set of figures that they already made in 12-inch. So we got the Assault, which was the Assault Trooper, and the Arctic Assault, which were the exact same molds. Palitoy ended up using this mold a bunch of times, and you can see here where Bob was suggesting, hey, here's some things we could do with this exact mold, different colorways. So Mikey and I decided that what we wanted to do was we wanted to homage this line, this character that has gone through 2 different lines with a 1/12 scale version. So we did some concept work, and this is what we came up with. We have a Desert Trooper there that's designed to homage the colors of the original figure, the 12-inch figure with the gray gloves and boots. We have the winter version, the Arctic Assault, which has a drop-down hood and some really slick visor paintwork there by Mikey. We have the Jungle Trooper version, and then we have the Commander, which I took a little liberty there and thought, well, he might have a blue beret under the blue helmet, but those were the 4 we started with, and those are the 4 we decided to base everything on. So this is what that picture is very blurry, I'm sorry, but this is the loadout for what we call the Action Assault Trooper. So you have the helmet, which is clearly an homage to the original. We made these bracers. I didn't like the glove idea. I wanted an idea that it would be kind of a future soldier. These 2 pockets, which snap over the dusty harness, which we'll go over in a little bit. This little guy here, which holds a knife. This grommet is a thing that we do for when you're trying to fit a head onto a Classified or Marvel Legends type neck and it doesn't fit right. I'll show you in a little bit how this works, and I'll show you how the heads are modeled just so that you can see that. It also comes with this decal sheet, which just has some things you can either use as arm patches, or you can use these and put these on the helmet, which was how the original 3 3/4 figure was. The 12-inch also had a decal for the helmet. And then we have this little beauty here, which is an L85 A3, and we call it an A3X because this is our version of it specifically made for the Action Assault Trooper. This kit right here, all printed up. It won't be primered. These are primers so the pictures look better, but that kit is $25. So to make
Good morning, Shane.
To make this figure, you need a flint or Duke buck. You need just the body. Prepare to do paint work. You'll need a dusty harness, the shoulder pockets from one of the Snake Eyes figures. You can use Duke's belt. It works pretty good, but if you can get a hold of a 30th anniversary soldier belt, it's even better. And then you have obviously Dusty's backpack, and then you have Dusty's knife and sheath. So you can go out, you can try to find you a Duke or a flint, try to get a belt, try to buy the parts all separately. If you get it to Dusty for $6, you're in pretty good shape here. But we're selling this pack, this set here. We've got a bunch of these put together, and they're going to be $25. That way you get everything you need to build the figure for $25 of parts. There's an upgrade to do the Commander or the Winter one with this, and that comes with Stalker's Beret, a Duke or Flint, holster and pistol, and the drop-down hood, which is probably the hardest part in there. But that set is $15. I don't know if we even have 20 of those, but we have a few. And I wanted to show here that this kit works really nice on the Valaverse buck too, especially the Steel Brigade. It's got these cool little straps on the boot. It actually looks a little more like the vintage figure that way. So I think this is a really sweet build here. Okay, so here are the upgrades for the kit. I'm really sorry about that helmet model. It looks terrible, but it looks a lot prettier in person. The primer there was something on the helmet. So what we have here is we have what we call the Hue head, and we call it that. That's our little homage to Greg Hughes. So this is the head. As I said, I do not do hair very well, so this is just solid hair. You can do the Hue head with the hood on it. That's the one that comes in the kit, and then there's one version of him with a mustache because that's awesome. There's also a suppressed version of the L85. The heads are $5 a piece. The guns are $5 a piece. And if you want to be able to remove the visor, you can buy this version of the helmet for $7. So that is kind of the rundown there. Cool. This is what we call the KUK stand, and this is a multi-use headstand to put your heads or helmets on. It's got a fairly common neck peg size there. When you buy it, it comes with 4 magnets that you put in the bottom, and that way it'll magnetically hold on to something. This is especially handy if you are painting a head. As you see over here, This peg is removable. You pop the head on. You can put the grommet on this and put the head on there. You use this piece here, and the helmet will set on it. You'll have to put some sticky tack or something on there to hold the helmet, but it gives you a really nice thing to not put your fingers on the helmet while you're painting it. You can also use it for displays, but it comes in this dark gray color, and this is kind of what you get in the kit. And these are $10 a piece. You can get 3 of them for 25 if you're doing a few of them. There's the Grenadier helmet. That is kind of a classic version of the Grenadier helmet. I'll show you a little better picture of it later today. But that helmet is $5. If you are one of the crazy people, like the person on the show with me here, that wanted to change your Classified Hiss into a hyena, that Cobra gunner seat back will not work very well. It just doesn't match the aesthetic. So this is a Red Shadows version of that seat back. That's $12. But everything snaps in and it slides right in place, just like this did. Everything is mechanically sound. Here's some stuff we're working on. This stuff isn't available yet, but this is the Dragonsky kit with the proper LPO-50 Russian flamethrower with the backpack. The hose is a Televiper or tripwire hose. It works really well. But this is what you get. You see the details.
I think it's the only hose that any Classified figure has ever come with. Is the same.
It probably is, and that's nice because if you got tripwires for cheap or anything like that, you know, it makes it work.
It's handy.
For me and Mikey, that's like the when they do the 2-packs that don't sell very well, like the Tiger Force ones. It doesn't matter to us because hey, hose. You know, when they were clearancing those Python Televipers, hose.
Hose, baby, hose. Jeff, these are 112. This is all 112 stuff for the Classified.
Thank you, Zach, on the seat. That was something Mikey, when he was working on his, he was like, I don't know what am I going to do with this? I was like, oh, I have an idea. So that is where that went. The last thing here to develop on this Dragonsky kit will be the vest. So we can have something pretty much just like this. Everything else will be stuff you pull off the shelf with our kit, and you can paint it however you want. Stuff that is coming.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh,
I know Classified is going to be doing some sci-fi action, and I really doubt it's going to be the 1991 version. So we're going to give you a way to build that.
What you guys don't know is actually V4 is what they're starting with the Gatling gun hand.
Yeah, that I would love to see that, but I really doubt that's what they're going to do.
No, that's not. That's definitely not. Hey, Abby. Good morning, sir.
We will be working on something to do this version of Hawk. Like I said, the sci-fi stuff will just be a kit. There are already parts that look like this out there, and you have several already gray jumpsuits that'll work, like the metalhead jumpsuit works really well for this figure. But we'll be putting that together, and you'll see more. There's weapons to design. We will have the bazooka, the energy bazooka, and we will have the small rifle. Okay. This little guy here, that's a secret preview of something that is coming up in June, and we will talk about that here in a little bit. It will be a 1/12 scale kit that, like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. And yes, I am working on the Firefox helmet. I can't tell you how many times Mikey's like, just knock it out, just get it done. I need it. So I'm going to have to knock that out. Everything else about Mitchell Gant's shit suit is a basic black helicopter suit. It is nothing fancy. You could use. There's several sets out there that you could use. It's black, so it's going to be a pretty simple build. You could also, I guess, if you're really crazy about the movie, you could probably build a version of Richard Pryor from Deal of the Century and paint it white with lightning bolts on it. You know, it's just whatever you want to do with it. It's the same helmet for those that don't know. Just to get kind of things jump started, we are going to have this little special deal where you can get the builder pack, the loadout kit, an extra head and an extra rifle for $50 shipped. Everything else is going to be $8 shipping and handling flat rate, but for this set here, I'm just going to do $50 across the board. So that's what you'll get in that kit. If you want to add anything to it, it'll just go into the free shipping on that. So that is the presentation.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Potential investors, maybe you.
So I was going to talk about in that kit, I talked about the dusty harness, right? And you saw these, share this here. So this is the magazine pouch. It is cut out on the back side, and the reason for that is you take your dusty pack, snaps right on, paint it how you want it. You put a little glue on it when you're ready, but that's how it works. So take another one, snap it on also. Okay, I won't snap that one on. But this is what you end up with. So it's pretty simple. The only other thing you have to modify is this sheath, and you have to cut the straps off of it. And this little piece that it comes with, you slide it into that piece, and then this now plugs into Duke's belt. So that's what that is, and then you paint it all together. You don't have to glue it or anything. I paint it together, and the paint will hold everything together. So cut the straps off, slide the sheath into that, and put that. If you have the 30th anniversary belt, you have 2 peg holes, so you can put the knife in either place. Let's see here if I can do this. So that's how that works. It's a pretty slick setup. Let's see if I got a decent image of that. I probably don't. I probably just have it on my phone. It's terrible.
Yeah, you got me. We designed this in the idea that there you go. When those flints and the Tiger Force Dukes with the cycle were hitting Ross, and they were $6. We're like, we need to find a way to get to use the stuff that's really readily available, right? So RossCon was in full swing. The figures were coming out. They were $6, and you could get a flint. $6, you could get a dusty. And between those two figures, you can get by. Like, yeah, it's designed to be used with a Duke, with the Duke belt, but and the Snake Eyes arm straps and stuff. But you can get little pieces and stuff from, Collectible Carnage or Leonoff on Mercari. There's options just to get the pieces and parts, or you can do something alternative, and maybe you got one of those blind boxes, right? And one of the deluxe figures was a blowback. Okay, well, get the parts and use blowback. Like, yeah, I just left blowback's belt on, so I don't have the knife sheath or anything. But
did you warm up those bracers to fit them on there?
You have to warm up the bracers to get them over the sleeves.
So that's why, and then that was why we did the Duke and the Flint, which is also the Televiper, the first Viper, all have those same arms. So the sleeves look bunched up here, and it looks really good because it stops right on them.
Yeah, just heat the bracers on, push them on. But that one's got Snow Job's hood, and then he's got, because that's how you bought that Steel Brigade. So he's got holsters and stuff on the bottom. So there's an Arctic one.
The original did not have any sort of holster or pockets, but they sure look good with them. That's why most of the paint samples that I did up front, that's why they all did not have extra stuff. I was just showing what came in the kit and what was the actual original intent of the homage. And it is kind of a funny homage that Mikey is putting them on Valaverse figures. I haven't done one yet, but that is technically Action Force now, so it's a pretty good homage to Action Force. So
yeah, it's a nice blend of the two worlds. So,
and the figure looks really good. So it just looks good all put together. It looks a little bulkier than the Classifed guys.
Yeah, your prints do come out pretty clean.
They're decent, and they have a good enough resolution that you can really just prime them, and you don't have to do a whole lot of work. I do on visors and helmets. I like to sand a little bit so that you can have that shine, but they do come out all right.
Absolutely. Mojo, thanks for stopping in, man.
Thank you.
Have a great breakfast.
Hold on.
Shane wants to know what printers you use.
Yeah, I'm gonna check here. I forget the name of it. I bought it 4 or 5 years ago as part of a Kickstarter, I think. I didn't open it until last June when I did that. Decided to do that Iron Grenadier helmet, and let's see here. It's an Any-Cubic. I just can't remember what model it is. Like an M or something. I can't remember. I have to look. It does well though. I want to get a couple more. I'd like to. Oh, I saw Brad there in the chat. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that, man. Brad was at the Peddler's Post show. Pretty
we got pretty good time hanging out with Brad.
Yeah. It was cool. So now I was going to show you guys how that grommet works.
Robert's here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Turk says he's running one of those M5 Any-Cubics.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm pretty sure it's all right. It was I came from a company where we had a $250,000 15 by 15 by 15 resin printer, and I actually found this thing pretty easy to learn how to use. I use the lychee slicer. I like it quite a bit. So here is this is what you normally get when you have a peg. This is the grommet. You slide it over the ball. You got a good seal here. And then you just take some random head and slide on there. Oh my goodness.
And then you can adjust height.
This way you can move the height up and down. It still has the articulation that the ball joint lets you have. You still have full side-to-side movement. But like Mikey said, you can get your neck length exactly where you want it, or you can push it down. Man, that's a really good build right there already. It looks like something that I didn't show a picture of that we might have to work on.
Weird.
Steady cam gun.
Yeah, and if you get the so the newer ones where the ball is a barbell that goes into the neck and into the head, those grommets work really well just putting them on. On the older figures where the ball peg was on a swivel on the neck, that diameter is much larger. So I have found that if you take that grommet and you trim off the edges, it just works as a just a sleeve, and that works really well for the larger neck pads like you would get on Duke or Flint.
Yeah, and if you buy like somebody's 3D print, so the grommet has, because this is made to be this is a panel grommet that you would run a wire through to keep it from severing the wire or scratching the insulation off. So the panel line works really good if you have a little bigger neck peg. That headstand also comes with the O-ring that goes into the panel groove, and you can use different sizes of O-rings. to do better, but now it's just a little bigger, so fit a different head. All the heads and helmets that I do that are built like this have a straight hole in them. I don't mess with trying to do a ball joint. This material does have some flexibility to it if you warm it up, but there's no reason to do that when you can use the grommet setup, and then you don't even care, because it's going to slide right on any kind of neck peg you have, pretty much. So it's how a lot of the 12-inch stuff is like that. And Hot Toys and all those guys just do basically a head with a big hollow spot in there, and then they can, like, if you buy, I can't think of the name of the company because I think they change their name every couple months to not get caught, but they do a Hot Toys TT-17 imitation, which is a 12-inch figure, but it comes with a pretty much hollow head, or a neck peg that is like 4 different ways you can configure it, because a lot of people just do a head and then glue in whatever connector they're using into the neck for that body. So it's kind of
yeah.
All right, so
Derek, I've heard that from lots of people. It's, they get into it, but keeping up with it's kind of a chore. Most people don't think about that.
Yeah, that's what sucks, and that's why a lot of times I think, instead of, like, unless you're going to go industrial, just picking a $300 or $400 machine and accepting you're going to get maybe 1,000 prints out of it. Just think about that in your brain when you buy one. Just get one that has good resolution, that's not too bad to take care of. But yeah, if you have to change out a light, or if you have to change out anything else, there's just so much to it, and a lot of times it's just worth buying another machine. And I hate that, but it's just not enough of an industry. We're just now to the point where you can get one for $300 that's a decent printer. So we are not to the point where you have, like, in the 60s and 70s, where you had literal places in town you could take a vacuum cleaner to be repaired. Like, there aren't a lot of places like that for 3D printers, or for tabletop routers, desktop routers. The same kind of thing. Like, you just accept that if you don't know how to do the maintenance on it, you're just going to have to replace it. But at least we're not talking about when they were $1,400. Now they're fairly affordable.
That's true. That's true.
You can run 2 at the same time and alternate them. You're in a lot better. You always have a backup that way.
Mm-hmm.
And those Anycubic M5s aren't very expensive, and they go on sale. You just have to watch out, especially if you buy it on Amazon. There is a kind of I hate to use the word bootleg, because it's not really. It's their machine, but it's got a different kind of software in it. And so it won't take the updates from Anycubic to the base software, but it runs, it reads the same kind of files, it does all that the exact same way.
Father Son Galaxy's got a question here. So what would you use to prime just a part of a figure you can't remove, such as a vest, just to paint that one part? I always remove vests. I get a 4-cup Pyrex measuring cup, fill it halfway, heat up the water, and I just leave the body in there, pull the vest off, do the paint, and then once that's cured, the vest goes back on. Otherwise, there's not a way to do it. You can't paint in between layers without removing a layer.
Yeah. Do you prime much on soft goods, or flexible PVC?
I don't prime much in general.
Yeah. So
vehicles is really the only place where I prime.
If you're not going to remove it, just clean that thing up with 99% or 90% rubbing alcohol and let it dry out, and just put paint directly on it.
Yeah, I don't use much primer on the bodies and stuff. You don't have the room. There's not a large tolerance in between parts, so an extra layer of paint could very well be enough to make all of the paint scrape off when you go to move a joint or something like that, especially if you are putting back on, a vest or something like that. The thicker that is, the more difficult that's going to be. That's what she said. But you know, if you can keep the layers to a minimum, they always say when you're painting, multiple thin coats. Don't use thick coats. Don't glob it on, because all of that is going to make it more susceptible to be scraped off.
And both Tamiya and Mr. Paint, is that what it's called? The other self-leveling primer that's out there, is that Mr. Paint that makes that in the blue and yellow can? I can't remember. But
I don't know about that one.
Both of those companies have a really good version of that aerosol primer for acrylics in brush too. So if you do feel the need to prime with the same thing as their detail primer, as Tamiya's detail primer, you can buy brush on primer and just put it on real thin. Unless you if you want to airbrush, that's fine. But I don't do much airbrushing, and so that is, for me, it's if I can buy it in a bottle and use it as I need, then that's even better.
Yep, agreed. Hey, morning, Jeff.
Morning, Jeff.
Yeah, Jane says doesn't prime anything, maybe just a bait coast and start fresh. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm at. The best thing you can do, I mean, when you're not using primer, you need to get your paint to stick to something. So prep the surface. I think a lot of people starting out, that's not really something they think about, but paint prep, which I know Shane knows, incredibly important. So, yeah, just give it a scuff so the paint has something to stick to. That will also help it not scrape off because it's not clinging to a smooth surface. So,
and remember that when they build those plastic injection parts, they do put a coating on the mold, and a little bit of that coating comes off with every single part. Some are going to be worse than others, so get you some good grease cutting soap. It doesn't have to be Dawn. Dawn is good, but you can get the Dollar Tree stuff, and it'll do just the same thing. Scrub it really good, get all the oils off of that stuff before you paint. Always do that. I mean, that is something people forget about, or people don't think they have time for. Trust me, the 15 minutes it takes to do that and let it air dry after you've wiped all the drops off, that is way easier than the 3 hours it'll take to strip something and repaint it.
Absolutely.
Every time.
Turk says I just scuffed the fig to put a little tooth on the up. Yep. Absolutely.
Just a little.
Two thin coats and always thin your paints. Yeah. No, literally 2 thin coats. Good shit.
Especially for white.
Yeah, for sure. There is second to none on white and black. Both of those are fantastic. They're supposed to. Johnny was telling me that the next color wheel, the next wave of them should be coming out soon. They did their Kickstarter. They should be delivering soon. So I'll get an opportunity to use even more of their colors, which I'm excited about. Yeah, I saw you giggling. It's Shane over there. I saw y'all giggling. Yeah, for sure. It's a pain in the ass. Scuba Pete. Oh man. My brother from another mother. Man, I haven't seen you in an age of a dog. How are you, sir?
The other thing we were going to talk about. Yeah, yellow is rough too. The thing is, when you're painting white and yellow, you rarely have an opportunity to paint those on top of a color that's already light.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, it just does not happen very often. So that's why
and even that can be misleading, because you'll think you'll got a good coat, and then you come back and look at it and you see one high line where the paint just settled off the ridge just a little bit. You're like, hope you caught it before you cleared it, because that's gonna need more.
One other thing we were going to talk about was DFW in June.
Yeah, Jeff. Talking about
We are
DFW.
going to have several things going on at DFW. We'll have a table, which will be very much set up like we had at AR, where we had JMK Custom Works and the couple of KUK-O stuff. We'll have show specials, of course. We're going to have an exclusive introduction set there that ties into, I believe there is going to be a 112 scale custom course that Mikey's going to do. And for that, that's going to tie into that Black Fisher Price character. So,
Yeah.
inspired by the Buzz Lightyear based customs we did on an earlier show, inspired by that, but it is not going to be Buzz Lightyear parts. So,
Right. That was just the concept.
yeah, that was a concept. It's a fun concept that you can make with just stuff you can go buy and then build it up. That thing did not take any 3D print parts at all. That was all stuff that was off the shelf, stuff you can just buy with whatever you have on hand.
Which is cool, but your prep on it kind of sucks.
Yeah,
finding out the insides of parts, so
grinding out the inside of the
other
test is
stuff
awesome.
sucks.
And it does not fit perfectly. I think it looks great. It's cool for what it is. But we're going to take that up a notch. I showed you we wanted to do a hawk figure, so there's a tie-in there. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming, but that custom class is going to be legitimate. We're going to try to do it. It's only got an hour, I think, right now. We may try to get that extended. But in that hour, there's not going to be a lot of time to paint. So the parts, the 3D print parts that you'll get to build your figure will all be black. We'll probably use a base Destro body, whichever one you can get your hands on. And we'll have a few there for people that don't have the bodies. And then you walk out of there with a custom kit. We'll only run the black for that class.
Yeah.
So,
and for those of you that weren't last year's or didn't participate in the classes, do you want to kind of go over how that works, Pop? How Greg's got that set up? And at some point we'll probably have Greg on and we'll kind of go over this when we get a few more details ironed out. But this is just kind of
for this one, for the custom class, that's pretty standard at a show, is to have a custom. But what normally happens in those is the person put it on the thing usually has all the parts there available for you. Back in the day when it was 1/18th was all the rage. You'd have these, they were resin molded copies of the parts. They weren't 3D printed. This particular build lends itself incredibly well to 3D printing. Everything will be an attachment, so there's nothing that needs to be, the PVC material. Everything will go on a PVC buck. So that's easy to do. You'll have so you come in, everybody sits down, walk through probably a presentation or a discussion, and then we'll just walk around and show everybody how to do what we're going to do. There'll be probably do a couple of different pop and swap tutorials while we're doing it, a few other things in there, just kind of a basics. So anybody that pays for that class will get a class on customizing and how it works, but you're also going to get to walk out of there. So if somebody's got kids, it's a great opportunity for those kids to walk out of there with a figure that they helped make, and it's just pretty awesome. And it's something you'll have on your shelf, and you'll always have it. So that's worth it. The other thing is the other thing we'll be involved in. We were involved in it last year. There was going to be a workshop with the original Hasbro designers, and in that workshop you will build a vehicle. Those guys will show you how they did it back in the day. Last year they brought tools and everything. This year we're going to do something slightly different. I won't talk about that till we have Greg on, but that is a trick. That is a trick.
There's some real risk involved.
If I said there's a 50% success rate, that is being very, very generous.
I have definitely put a few chisel tips into my hands cracking torsos. It's not a pretty method.
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to someday figure out how to get that done. Right? You know, to come up
Yeah.
with a tool that allows people to do that. Yeah, it's frightening. You know, you could if you use the hot water method where you get it pretty warm and warm up the joint where the glue sticks. That's one way to do it. But even then, there's just not a good way to grab a hold of the part mechanically without a hand. The hand is just perfect for that. So
yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
So that show we'll be building a. You have the opportunity in that workshop
Cool.
to bring something you want to customize. Last year, people brought their own stuff in, and some people brought stuff. Some people we had vac form parts, which is what a lot of the stuff that was done back then to show that a vehicle was plausible and how it could be put together. That is what they did. They had a quick vac form machine, and they would make the part out of wood and Bondo, wax it up, and then vac form an ABS plastic sheet over it, cut it out. So there'll be the opportunity to make something totally different out of stuff that maybe one of those designers already has a mold of and brings sheets of it already made, and then you just make your own stuff. At that show, it'll be set up a little different than last year. You'll have the designers kind of walking around like they did last time, but it'll be more of a coaching type thing, which is what they did last year. But this way, we're going to give a template for the vehicle that you can build, and then we'll use the old school techniques mixed with some of the new stuff. There'll be greebles on hand that you can add to what you're making. It'll be pretty cool. We still have to work out the exact details, but I think everybody from last year is going to be there. I think Mikey. I can't remember the
Yeah,
guest list.
I think
A couple of
so.
KUK-Os is going to be sponsoring Dave Kunitz. Dave was one of the designers. His likeness was used for both Thrasher and Ozone, I believe, in the figure line. A really cool guy. All those guys were really cool and fun to work with. And I think this year there's a couple more joining. So that's going to be really cool. So you'll get the prototype design information from several different points of view. So that'll be pretty fun. Mikey and I think we're the only ones that finished the actual scratch build project last year. So we thought it would be fun if we helped sponsor it and set it up and let Greg worry about other stuff for a little bit with the show. So.
Yeah. With that show growing, he'll have plenty on his plate. And not that he had to be a part of that class last year, because those guys took it and they ran with it. I mean, they weren't nobody was holding a gun to their heads. Like, they were really really excited about it, and you could see that passion kind of fire back up. Like, it was like they were back in the shop again, and it was really cool to watch.
So I really don't think that was lightning in a bottle. I think those guys had a good time, and they all have some suggestions on what to do this time to make it a little better. Show a little more enjoyable.
Yeah, it was a first run. There's always improvements to be made, streamlines and stuff like that.
So that Mikey and I are gonna help with that. And those are our two big projects, other than manning our own booth. Call Sign Longbow should have 6 more figures. Morning.
Oh yeah.
Should have 6 more figures. Their table will be close. I always take time on Thursday night to help figure it out.
I wish you could make it, J-Mac, maybe one of these days in the future, huh? Zolo should be cool. I saw Skeletron's going to Zolo this year. They got a little exclusive there with the new card for the Retro Wolf. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think Troy might be there too.
Is Troy going? Cool. So there'll be Longbow and Skeletron represented there like that.
Mhm.
I think I heard that like Delta 17 was going to be there too, but maybe that was a different show.
I don't know. I think it
should be
is
a
that.
handful more independents. That's always a good thing, I think.
I think it is too. Uh, it's not always easy being an independent toy maker, but it is super rewarding because you have what the big companies don't have, and that's constant interaction with the people that buy the product.
Yes.
It's encouraging, and it makes you always feel like you have a stake in it. Um, I don't think anybody's out there asking you guys for tips on how to build things, but we definitely like feedback, and we definitely like connecting with everyone. So that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not yet.
Nothing yet.
Not yet, but I think we did see a packaging picture of it in its blister pack, uncolored,
Yeah.
with no deco.
Yep. I saw that the test shots and stuff.
Test shot, yeah.
I did see that.
We did mess with the test shots at AR.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
They're really nice. They are very nice. Really looking forward to that Skeletron. Oh man. Oh, that's gonna be some cool stuff there.
Yes. You guys are on Zakanan's channel next week? Yeah.
Yep. On Zakanan's channel, we'll be talking about best and worst power sets or like superpowers. So it'll be kind of one of the topics that we've kind of had for a while, and finally decided we were ready for the show. So we're doing that. That'll be pretty good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, me too, dude. Me too. How hard would it be to get die cast or actual metal weapons, guns, and swords? Well, I mean, we've gotten that before in other, well, in 112 scales too. I think there was some stuff that hit Ross not long ago that was die cast weapons. I remember we got a handful of those from Hasbro and one for 1/6 stuff too. I remember.
Yeah, Hasbro did it. Didn't Blue Box, when they introduced
Blue Box had some.
The first 12-inch line, when they first introduced it with the moving mouths.
Yep.
I believe they had metal framed weapons.
Yeah, I think they did. I think you're right.
So the drawback to the metal weapons, especially on smaller scales, is how heavy they are. They can be done. There's no question about whether or not you can do fine detail in metal. I mean, there's an entire industry of 40 millimeter, 26 millimeter figures or statues that are in metal. So there's no doubt you can get a pretty insane amount of detail in it. I just don't know how.
Cost-wise, I would imagine it's more expensive, but the tooling
I think it's more expensive
to
get started. But I don't think that once you get that, the metal that they use in die cast is not like real expensive metal. Because of the way you pour it hot, like here's your mold surface. When this goes against the mold, it's going to reflect to that surface. So if your surface is good, that part's going to look really nice on the outside. The inside may look rough and have some bubbles in it, but your outer showing surfaces, you see that on Jada Toys and Motorworks and all the companies that make the die-cast cars.
Right. Yeah. I think with metal, like at that scale, what's the advantage? It's not going to be more durable because it's still a thin barrel. You're still going to break it off. It's more of a novelty thing. It seems. I guess it's always seemed that way. Yeah.
So how are those? Are they pretty rigid? Are they heavy? What do you got in those? Apex ones.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any of those at Ross, but I haven't been to Ross in a month or two. But yeah, apparently they're like blind weapons crates, and you don't really know what weapons are going to be in them. Shane, the last one he showed on a Friday had like two handguns, two pistoles.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm wondering. Yeah, I wonder what I bet they're not that much heavier at that scale. I know when you get into 1/6, the barrel shroud and everything is 3/4.
Which one is that?
Cool. He says they're super lightweight. That's cool.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's worth looking into a little bit, especially for stuff we'd like to eventually do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's part of the problem with no one's going to argue that the classified weapons, they're just terrible.
Yeah, not great. Not great. But you, for example, has always been incorporating other lines' weapons into your GI Joes, so
nothing new
there.
You do. It's not like we don't have options. That's one of the awesome things about being a 1/12 collector right now is there are so many options, and you can find them elsewhere. But I would like to do more weapons 3D printed. I know a lot of guys do. But yeah, I think Mikey and I, to have a little fun with it, we're going to kind of focus on more sci-fi type military stuff, just to do that. So especially, I talked about the Iron Grenadier heavy gunner. I mean, I can think of a lot of uses. Repeater. There's several other characters that could use a Steadicam harness, where you would, where you could just have it move around a little bit. You have a little more, you got to really watch your mechanics in that. You want it to move around a lot, but you don't want it to look ridiculous, but you also don't want it to be super fragile either. So there's a little R&D work to figure out the joints of that Steadicam, but there are a couple of different ways to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be. Well, I think there's already 1/12 smart guns from Aliens, Jeff. The thing about that is, so the whole concept of the smart gun is that its ability to track, and that uses the Steadicam. Like literally, the Steadicam gunner it sounds like super high tech, but photographers and video people have been using that Steadicam rig for years. And for the movie Aliens, that's all it was. It was the camera Steadicam harness under the marine armor. So it's a very simple concept, and it should be something pretty easy to put together. It's just going to take a little time. Luckily, most of my experience in modeling is in the engineering side of it in CAD. So everything gets developed mechanically, but anybody that 3D prints knows that somehow you can have a 4mm hole and the print will come out as 3.8 or 4.5. You never know. So you just have to, whatever your printer does, you have to adjust your sizes and everything to where it works with your printer.
Yeah. And sometimes none of them stick to the tray at all, and you end up with a big soupy mess.
Yes. I do too. Actually, this is a pretty good point, and there's so much. It's like Gung Ho and Leathernecks, Eagle Globe, and Anchor, right? Colt gets extremely ridiculous about people using an accurate M4. Like most companies either have to get permission or they modify the thing slightly so they don't have to pay for it. Heckler and Koch is the same way. HK does the same thing. So there's big companies that make the guns that you're used to seeing and you really want to go all out on. A lot of those companies. That's why I like to take like that L85. It is an L85, but I moved like where slots were. I changed some of the dimensions of how it all worked together, just so you can do that. But for 3D printing, there's no reason why you couldn't just make the most accurate version of any rifle you wanted or weapon you wanted and go with it. It's just you just got to be careful at your scale of sailing when you're selling it. Sure. If you get noticed, you're liable to get a. But again, yeah, that's why a lot of people don't know that. But that is why now that doesn't excuse Nerf guns, but it does explain why some of the weapons look a little weird. But I agree. That's why I wish that company in Japan that makes the 112 scale, their stuff is always a little small, but it's so nice and it's like a little model kit you can put together. But they're pretty accurate. So, but I understand that.
Yeah.
All about life.
And I mean I like realistic weapons too for the most part, but I also understand that G.I. Joe started with not modern weapons. Everything was a little future forward, So I do like that. I just don't Hasbro designs I usually don't end up digging. Like I get that it's not a weapon that you could see have a military force using right now, and it's a little different, a little advanced or something. I just don't like their designs. So it's either something new they've done, or it's the same XMLR that's been there since 1982.
Which nobody ever seems to make one that's properly scaled.
They're huge now, absolutely massive,
and they're short and tall. It's just like that was actually one of my favorite guns when I was a kid. Was that gun? I loved that gun because it fit in their hands really well. You could tuck the stock under their arm and still hold it. Mm-hmm. It was a very well scaled weapon, but every time they do it in 1/6 or 1/12, they seem to make it shorter and taller. I don't know why.
I don't either. I will say, and I know we had talked about it because I ordered some, but the hybrid that Gridiron did that was half Tavor and half XMLR, still one of my favorite sci-fi weapons, because that's the perfect thing, right? You have a sci-fi modified modern military weapon. You've got the Israeli Tavor with the XMLR barrel. It looks cool. It's hard to get more futuristic looking than something on a bullpup chassis. Which
that always.
Greg had that down even back then. That's the most future thing, and that was when that gun was half made out of wood still. I mean, it was still a wood framed gun.
30 years old.
Jesus, they were making it like it was an infield, which I guess technically it was, but
yeah, I mean, it became the infield, right? And that's why we used it, was so that we were still homaging the original concept was future soldier design,
And one of us is an infield fan. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. Whether it's World War II or anytime after, like there's always a fun factor. Bullpups have their place. They're just not necessarily. I think they're more tactical in a CQB situation where the shorter barrel length of the gun makes sense. You need to move it around a lot, but everything in military training forever has been to remove the magazine from the front of your hand. And it's just so hard to think about going back here, especially when you talk about as modern military armor gets thicker and thicker, where you're putting more pouches up here. It's a lot harder to reach back here and drop a mag.
Right.
So that is, I think that's always where those guns get get kind of a bad rap.
Seacliff.
Thanks, man. But that is, but they still look cool as a feature weapon, and the idea of taking a current gun or a slightly modern gun and then turning it into a sci-fi weapon has literally been done since Star Wars. You know, so pop culture wise, how we perceive that's been done since really that kind of thing. Before that, movie space weapons were, just molded
Buck
pieces
Rogers.
of plastic glued together and just looked like needle guns.
Right.
Like nobody really was thinking about what would a weapon that fires a laser really look like. What could it be?
Yeah, it was never based in realism or understanding like a functionality. Like if you're going to make a laser rifle, okay, well, where does that energy come from? So there's a place to store energy or a place to create energy or something like that. It was always just something weird looking that looks like now like what they use to microchip dogs. Like, but yeah, Lucas took it and took out of date weapons by that point already, 30 years out of date, and just added random pieces of, photography equipment and shit to it. And then bam, now your imagination's open. And that's definitely been the kind of the standard for creating space weapons now, was take something that exists and just push it.
Yes, like the Akira rifle. Yeah, so that, I mean, but I think we did a show about kit bashing and how that all started. So it's not,
Sure.
It's the nature of it. So to be able to do that in your own. Yes, that is true, because they figured out a way to avoid the problem with the bullpup where you have to drop the mag out of the bottom and you pop it in from the top. So it doesn't matter how much armor you have here or how close you're pulling the weapon up to use it in a super close tank driver capacity. You can always pop from the top. So that is the P90 is just one of the most amazing weapons ever, I think. So.
And it's fun to shoot. I definitely don't mind 5.7 by 28. Definitely don't. But no problem with that round at all. That is fun.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's reasons that they chose that. It's always funny though to when NATO makes a decision and then everybody in the world switches to that round. Like it doesn't matter. It's got to be 9 mil. It's got to be 5.7. Okay, or 5.76. But it's like
5.56.
And the P90's like, nah, we're going 5.7 by 28. It'll be alright.
FN's like, look, we'll make stuff that does that, but that's not what this is.
Yeah, I think that is one of the coolest guns, and it makes the most sense. It was almost like that is exactly what it was built for, and that's the only thing they cared about. Because even early, when you think about the grease gun from World War II, the M3, like, yeah, it's nice and short, but good Lord, the magazine's a foot long.
Yeah.
It is durable. World War II weapons were designed to be made in factories by the thousands, and that gun is a good example of that. But, yeah,
they were still operating well into the Vietnam War. those little stamped steel pieces of shit were still dishing out freedom.
Oh yeah, the first Sten guns are terrible looking, but man, they worked.
They work. You bet.
I think that's all the show stuff we have is talking about the FW two classes and our setup. So.
Yep, that was it. That was it. Yeah, just letting everybody know what we've been up to and what we've got planned for the rest of this year. J-Mac, I can make another one. I've got a couple that I've got planned for other people, but yeah, I'll happy to talk to you about that.
Yeah. There you go. I guess that's where one of those sets is going to go. Huh?
Yeah. You just printed off some of those for me, so that's good. That's good.
Print off another round.
Yeah. Now I need to get you a Michael B. Jordan head file so I can have you print that too.
One?
Well, I know a couple people have them because I buy them, but I don't know if there's a file available. I'll have to look into that. It's not a Don Man thing. I know that much.
Okay. I found a few new ones this weekend that looked interesting. Look like they're you can join a page and they have a bunch of stuff.
Nice. Is that to me, to my, like, what stock, what inventory am I bringing? I don't really know yet. I'll probably have around, I'm going to try to have at least 20. So that's kind of it. If you're wanting to buy one, something specific at DFW, let me know and I can bring it to DFW. That's not a problem at all. But yeah, I'm gonna try to have at least 20. If I do end up doing Joe Fest the week before, I'm gonna try to have some figures that I can sell there without selling a bunch for the ones that I was going to bring to DFW, because I want to represent at DFW, because obviously I have a table there, so that's the one that's most important. No, Derek, we appreciate that, man. Thank you for watching. Now, what are you planning on bringing, Pop?
What am I bringing?
Yeah, are you gonna bring some Star Brigade figures if you still have them by then?
Well, yeah, and there'll be different versions of those, I hope, by then.
Sweet. So how many, like, what I guess what kits are you planning on having available? So you got the Action Assault Trooper.
Action Assault Trooper. I would think that since that was one of the only figures you sold at the Peddler's Post show, it would do us some good to have some of those painted up and ready for people to snag if they want to buy the kit already built. Which, as a reminder, that is our business model, is that I will model a lot of things, and I might make one or two customs just to see how it goes together and how it works. But anything that I do, Mikey can put together as a figure for you. You tell him what camo pattern you want. These are the pieces of the kit I want. Mikey will put those together for you, and that doesn't matter what we're doing at the time, but we will have the sci-fi kits will be well done by then. Let's see, what else did we show? The Firefox helmets, you'll be able to get those. So you can go scrounge everywhere for tripwire bodies or metal head bodies, whatever you want to do to build that figure. We'll do a show. We will do a show that puts some of the kits together before then. So if you're interested in that stuff, we'll have that. And then we'll have, let's see, I'm still working on how the hawk kit is going to work. I did find a guy on Colts 3D that does a classified hawk with the headband already made into it. So I am going to talk to him and see if I can make a deal with him to get a license to sell those heads with those kits, so we don't have to model a new head.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so that I'm hoping we'll have a hawk kit. We'll obviously have that the whatever kit I am putting together, the not Buzz Lightyear kit for astronauts. I'm hoping we will have those ready by then, and then I'm hoping we'll have an upgrade action assault recon type trooper. It'll be a little more colonial marine style.
Cool.
And that one is going to be designed to use on the Dusty bodies. So if you went out there and bought a bunch of Dusties so that you could have an army of them that you don't know what you're going to do with, we're going to have a kit that's going to turn those Dusty bodies into something cool, really cool.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you appreciate it, Jay. It's something I've done since I started doing the JMK Custom Works things. I think the handwritten note's kind of a personal touch, and it's kind of something.
It's like drawing on the box.
Yeah. That's true. And are we planning on having longbow stuff at DFW? I assume yes.
There's going to be a longbow table.
There is going to be a longbow table?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So
should be
everything
should be
longbow has
will
have stuff. Skeletron going to be there, or is longbow going to be repping both?
I don't think Skeletron's going to be at DFW because they're going to make the one trip to
Joe Fest. Sure.
So they'll do that. I'm trying to think of what else is going. I don't know if I would assume that we will be selling some Skeletron stuff.
Usually what happens.
Longbow figures. We should have.
Morning.
You rowdy. We should have 6 figures by June. So.
Oh yeah. There you go. You'll have a purpose for all your Dusties. Jim Largo, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
Probably only one other person other than me wants that more than you do. It has been such a slog.
Yeah.
That wave, that half of the Kickstarter will be your both your Soviet soldiers. The Krasny Ninja will be part of that, so you will be able to build up your Reds.
Fill your Rusky ranks.
Yeah, and I believe that should have Uptown, Outlaw, and Lancer in it. So 3 good guys and 3 Russians.
Hell yes. And when we get some of those, some more progress on that, I'm sure Dad and I will do a show talking about that, reminding everyone everything they, the stuff they paid for is looking good, looking real good.
Yeah, we did have somebody. We have a couple of people that burn up our DMs with great advice on longbow. It's always pretty entertaining. The latest couple of rants have been about the tariff thing, and here's what I'm going to say about that. I have no idea. I have no idea how it's going to affect us. I don't know. We don't know. I mean, it seems like every 3 days there's a different thing. So until I'm ready to get that shipping container loaded up, which we circumvent a lot of extra fees by sharing that with several other independent toy manufacturers. So that is all 3 of us. That is a way for us. Well, I say 3. There's actually 5 2 others that we rotate out. So anytime we do that, like, we save the extra of having another billing. To be really honest, one of the things that killed us on that last batch of stuff we got when we got the Ghost figures and Skeletron got their stuff, the Roboskull delivered on that shipping container. The worst part about that was Customs decided to charge us a few $1,000s just for the distinct pleasure of having the government touching all of our shit. So yeah, so everybody worried about tariffs. What's it going to cost from China? Like, oh, it's not going to change anything. The feds are still going to mess with it, and we're still going to end up paying money that we didn't plan on paying.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we are resolute on the figure price. So shipping for a lot of that is not going to affect a lot of the customers. We're going to eat that. That's kind of that was our point. And so we try as hard as we can. We try as hard as we can to not change that MSRP, because that was where we thought the sweet spot was a few years ago, and that's still where the sweet spot is. It gets really hard to decide to, and anybody that collects Classified or any of like the Delta 17 stuff, it's really hard to justify that $25 or $30 for a figure. So you as a customer, you sometimes in times like this, you have to decide, what do I really want to buy with my $80 this week? Mm-hmm. So, you know, we just want to make sure that we're building a product, even though it is a smaller scale, as Chad would say, the Lord's scale, 3 3/4.
We'd say that.
Even at that, it's still, I want to make sure that you get the value for that it is, that's what you're getting, you know? I mean, I want you to get that figure and think like, it's been a wait, but oh my God, these are good. So
that's the thing is, is the wait worth it, you know?
And especially for those that back the Kickstarter or the backer kit and pre-ordered, like, I don't want you to have waited this long. You get the figure, but also in that you got the drama of some extra price hike or something. Like, what you bought at the price you bought it, that's what you're getting it for. Shipping may go up a little, but that's just because shipping is going to go up. But we have tried as hard as we can. If you locked in shipping and you locked it all in, everything else is on us.
Absolutely.
So tariffs or not, tariffs may affect the future for us, but
thanks, Jason.
Not worried about it. I would like to think that at some point this whole thing will turn into a little more manufacturing in the U.S. stuff. I know what the limitations are. You know, I know we're probably never in our lifetime going to see affordable, well-painted action figures made here in the U.S.
No.
So, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't have vehicles or accessory sets, you know, weapon sets, like that stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There you go. Talk to Shane when you get it. It's true. It's true, J-Mac. You know, it's just the level of how much of that asshole you want to smell, I guess.
I would never tell someone they're not entitled to their opinion, but I don't always have to agree with it. You know, this is this whole thing with the tariffs and everything is one of those things that sometimes you got to step away and wait to see what the facts are going to be. You can have an opinion. You can buy into the hysteria. You could look at it like, well, we certainly don't mind, you know, we don't want people here to get less than a living wage, but we certainly don't mind buying toys made by a country that never pays a living wage to their people.
True.
I'm not trying to make a political stance here. I'm just saying, like, think about it. So if we can make more stuff here, get more people, like, even if it's 100 people making toys here in the U.S. again. You know, I remember when I was a kid and I saw a video one time on some news show, they were showing the Rhode Island factory Millennium Falcons. And I was just like, oh my God, I could actually go work somewhere where they make Millennium Falcons. No, it's cheaper in China. We'll get it over there. So, I would like to see a lot of that come back. I really would.
Yeah.
But I know nobody's going to want to pay $60 for a 3 3/4 inch action figure because nobody here wants to. It just doesn't make sense to pay somebody $25 an hour to paint eyebrows.
It's true. Plus, we're not even. Most of us are still pretty upset for $50 for a 1/12 action figure. I don't give a fuck if it's Spidey or not.
Yeah.
There's just some tough pills to swallow, and I don't think Longbow wants to be handing those pills out.
Yeah, we don't.
Because those guys are collectors too, y'all. So they're not really down with that shit either. Absolutely. Fucking A. Fucking A. That's it. Well, at least Longbow doesn't make stuff in South America because then when customs gets here, they're going to break them apart and look for drugs. And you think I'm kidding, but I'm not.
No, we have a friend that exact thing happened to him. Was that DFW when we were waiting on stuff from DFW? That was that show, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we were at DFW and he was on his way to Joe Fest.
So he had part of his delivery was going to be shipped to us and part of it shipped to him. And yeah, he got his delivery the day of the show and the figures were all broken apart.
Busted apart.
Custom
smuggling. They were under the impression that logically
somewhere in the middle in the torso of a 4-inch modern style action figure, there would be enough in it to justify busting up the figure that was inside of it.
Absurd. Just absurd. Yes, call sign Longbow figures will be available at DFW. At the call sign Longbow. Check it out. Keanu, I'm under the firm belief that the Lord scale is 1/6 scale, and the rest of us that collect other scales are just fucking heathens. That's what I think.
Derek, it's funny that you mentioned that company that made the Fist action figures at that Columbia factory. That's the example I gave you, and it wasn't Fist; it was another line.
Same factory.
And that is what that factory is learning a lot about making action figures, and it's unfortunate that that Don Man's Fist figures had to be their prototype, because they do look really cool, but when you get the figure in hand, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of repeat customers. I hope so. I hope so for him. I'm a huge fan of his, and he did a lot of work there. And if you're part of his Patreon, you had access to some of that stuff early, so he really did put together a great figure, but it just for whatever reason did not translate well into an actual production part, and that in part is because we're making that in Colombia, right? And we've decided we're going to go with this factory who's made this, who's never made a toy before. They don't understand. Hey, we don't understand how joints are supposed to work. We don't understand what a ratchet joint is. I don't know what are these butterfly weird joints in the torso. Let's just mold it as part of the torso. There were just so many misses.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So you had these misses with that, and Don Man is great. He's a great creator. Tremendous respect for him. Met him a couple years at Joe Fest. Got to talk to him for a little bit. So another thing people don't think about, and that is when you're doing these factory things, when you're working with a factory in a different country, we are so used to dealing with Chinese factories and the way their workflow works. To go somewhere like Colombia, where the culture is totally different, how they view work and how they view, like, you have hired me to do a job, I'm going to do that job, right? Like, that has a totally different meaning in Colombia than it does in China, than it does in Vietnam, than it does in America. So in America, we are obsessed with over communicating, which seems like a bad thing, especially if you're a person that, like me, with a coffee mug that says, go into another meeting that could have been an email, that mentality. Our culture is so ingrained in that that it's hard for us to imagine sending our money to a company, a large amount of money, not hearing from them for 6 months, and then they send you a product that you hadn't even seen yet. Like, they're like, hey, it's ready for production. Like, whoa, I really would have appreciated some samples, Like, no, you told us to make this and we made it, So you gotta keep that in the mix when you're finding a factory, when you're looking for something to do, somebody to do your stuff. You got to make sure that communication is going to be clear, that the expectations are set up front. Like, if I'm going to send you $15,000, this is what I want in return. I'm not just paying you to make an action figure. I'm paying you to collaborate with me to make an action figure. So you have to think about that culture, no matter what factory you're using. Even in China, there are differences in the different regions of China. So there's stuff to think about there. If you got a person on the ground in that country, you're way better off. Or if you have somebody that's from that country that can give you some pointers on, hey, just so you understand, like, if you say this to this person, they're going to take offense. Here's how to say it. Here's how to say what you're trying to say, but in a way that won't offend them. So there's a lot of stuff like that we don't even think about when we're opening our toys, right? Like, I wish they'd make this better. I wish they'd do this in a different country. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to think about. So, but I'm open to using other factories, especially for long term. Mikey and I have a vision of where we want to go with this, and we don't always want it to be 3D printing. We want other stuff. We really just want to do tie-ins for other lines like the Classified or Valaverse stuff. If it's something that fits those figures that you can make and do your own thing with it, that's what we want. So that's kind of, sorry, I went on a little rant there about manufacturing, but a lot of people do not understand it, and that is always clear when I see chats, or in our DMs. People will be like, well, you guys should do this and you should do that. And anybody that's changed factories in the middle of a product line knows that there is a lot to that, and it is not as easy as changing factories. Even with the GI Joe line, you could tell, you have two legs, for instance, that look exactly the same, but the connector between the boot and the shin is completely different. So they're not interchangeable, which sucks if you're a customizer. But for the factory, like, that factory just thought, hey, this would be a better plug and connector, so we're going to do it this way. As long as the outside of the figure looks the same, they're not thinking about what a customizer wants to do with it. They're thinking about what's a better joint than what we had before, because that joint certainly didn't work out very well. So that happens. So you really have to weigh all of the things. Checking chats here. Yeah, two good points here. I'm going to highlight both of you guys' points here. If you could find a way to do that without polluting the water or air, I would be with it. And then, obviously, you can't have manufacturing and environmentally healthy, friendly at the same time. And that is true in a lot of ways. But you got to think about scale too, right? I've worked for companies. I've worked for companies that handle chemicals pretty much my whole career. There is so much you get involved with the EPA and all of that. And again, like I said, when I was talking about, the wages we're willing to pay, the amount we're willing to pay for a toy, we're not thinking about that. China can build it cheaper, but it's not just because of labor. I don't want to make it sound like that. I feel like as the country that America is, everyone that is doing a skill be on par with a person that has chosen another path and went to college and done all those things. But the guys and girls that put in the hard work, went to welding school and they're welding every day, like those guys, that's a living. They're building a career.
Yeah.
If you work in manufacturing and you've done that your whole life, you shouldn't be 45 years old and making the same amount that somebody at a McDonald's makes. Somebody that's putting burgers together. And I'm not disparaging burger makers, because hey, I love McDonald's burgers, right? but there is a scalability there and a skill level. Like at McDonald's, you can't expect to go to be 45 years old and start tomorrow making burgers and think you should make the same as your best friend who is the same age as you but's been a welder his whole career. He's making twice as much as you. Well, that's how that works. But it's not just the wages. It is the EPA. It is all of the government alphabet agencies that get involved in your product and how you manufacture it, and demanding that you have a safety person on staff if you have so many people that work there. Those things all like that eats away at your margin. And when you get to a point where your margin isn't worth building the product, you got to step away. Right. So there's a lot to it when you're thinking about what am I going to make? What am I going to make that's going to make money that I can make on a small scale that keeps me out of the issues that Hasbro and Mattel have to deal with every day, because I don't want to deal with that stuff. So there's a lot to that too. I mean, sure. I could talk about this stuff all day, you guys, because this is like my passion. So, but I don't. It's just, Rowdy, the job market does suck right now. And a lot of that is because we took a little time off at COVID, and I don't think we ever really recovered. And it's been hard. It's been rough.
On top of generations of outsourcing everything we didn't want to do anyway. And now the workforce doesn't know how to do those things. Like, we haven't manufactured toys since the 50s. So now there's an entire 2 generations that don't know how to do it. So like, even we would have to be retrained if we wanted to be the powerhouse of it, and the money would not be there for companies to do it. It's just not going to happen, because they're not going to cut. The guys that run the company aren't going to cut into their profits.
That's right.
So that they can pay an American workforce to do what Chinese workforce will do for a tenth.
Right.
Of the cost.
And before I answer this, because Rowdy's got a really good point there, but before I answer that, like what you said, Mikey, is true, but we don't want that here. We don't want the government to say, hey, we'll let you do this and this. We'll control your lives completely. No,
I don't.
And we're going to take over the global market and be the biggest toy maker in the world. Well, yeah, but what freedom do your people lose by having to work at a toy factory? Yeah. Or during COVID, when the Chinese would not let, you couldn't leave your home. We saw the news, we saw how that was going. But in reality, what was happening is that a lot of Chinese factories are built with living quarters built into them, right? So the government basically said, oh, but if your workers never leave the factory, you guys can keep making stuff. And so they did. I mean, several places changed one of the floors of their buildings into just apartments for the people to live in, so they could keep them there for 18 months. People joke about Chinese New Year, and during that time, what really sucked for those people is that so Chinese New Year's 3 weeks, one to get home, one to spend with your family, one to come back to the factory, right? They didn't even get that year. So they spent almost 2 years living at the factory just so they could, eke out a living. Like, it sucks, man. I hate hearing that. But anyway, Rowdy, you're right. And the bigger the company, obviously, the more automation is going to happen. And that has been happening for a long time. And it sucks. I've worked for a factory that has robots, and you still need skilled operators to run the robots. AI hasn't quite taken that over yet.
Sure.
But yeah, like, Rowdy, this is also a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that big companies get to do that, right? Like you got people like beating on us for driving cars. Like, if you didn't drive your car, you'd save the environment. But then they're letting somebody buy tax credits, right? And they can pump out as much shit into the atmosphere as they want to. But you're going to beat me up over cow farts for meat and driving my car every day. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Just tell me what
math's not math. Yeah.
To not hear about it anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it does.
I can preach at you from the bow of my yacht how big of a footprint you're making. Like, easy guy. All right. and make 60 grand. Like, calm down, okay?
Well, Rowdy, I will say this. I don't want people to take this in any political way, but the only way that we can stop that is us. We're the only ones that keep us from being China. So all that stuff I was talking about, that I want people to think about that. Henry Ford, people talk about how great he was. He purposely built towns around factories so that he could basically own the workers.
Yeah, he did what mining companies did for fucking decades.
Yeah, mining companies made their money by having these little one-room shacks with a bathroom and a kitchen in it and a bed, and that's basically where they lived full time. The company owned your housing; they owned everything you had. If you had a vehicle, it was a company vehicle. Like, you had nothing. Your wages really didn't mean much because you worked all the time.
Mm-hmm. You owed your soul to the company store.
So yeah, and that's all of that's true. I mean, there's a lot of people have that's so true, Brad. You know, that's what I was talking about earlier. Is I'm not wanting to, you know, I'm not saying I want to beat the bad guys or beat the big guys. I don't want to do that, but I do believe that small businesses and small companies, with the options we have available, you should be able to squeak out a living for you and maybe 50 to 100 employees, and be pretty proud of what you do and what you're making. And if you can do that, that's great. Every example that I've given, there is an example somebody can give me of a company that that takes advantage of it. Like Roddy was talking about the tax credit thing. Like, yeah, that happens. We're talking about Chevy, Ford, Dodge, companies that when they fail, the government's like, oh, well, here's some money. Don't fail. Like, why? If I had a guy here in this little town I live in, if there's a guy here that decides to open a wallpaper store and it goes under, that just wasn't, maybe he wasn't running it right. Maybe this wasn't the market for it. I don't want to hear that somebody lost their business. I don't mean to sound callous about that. But what I am saying is that, you know, the government's not going to bail the small guy out. So the small guy has to be scalable within reason. Like, you really have to think every investment you make, every machine you buy, every time a material vendor wants to change a price or tells you he's going to miss a shipping date, all of that affects you and the small group of people that work for you and depend on you to pay their families every week, right? So there's a huge amount of responsibility. There's a huge amount of risk, but, you know, I still really believe that that small companies are what make this company great, or this country great. I think that is the key here. Rowdy was talking about, you know, made that comment earlier about the only thing that keeps us from being China is us. And that's one way to do it. You know, you don't have to go work for a mega corporation. You don't have to do those things. You could have a small company. You could be part of a small company, an investor in a small company where you're just involved in making decisions. If anybody's interested in that, hit me up. I'll give you my PayPal address here in just a little bit. But yeah, that's so yeah, this stuff it intrigues me, and I like talking about it, and I'd like to I really do want to do more here. I think that you know, like I say, I realize the limitations. I was talking about the painting apps and stuff. That's always been stuff that that is what killed the price of action figures back in the 80s. It's what moved it to China. Mm-hmm. And that is, you know, that's so be realistic about that, right? So I want to make something here in the States that doesn't need painted. It's just molded. Like, I don't know, like 1980s G.I. Joe vehicles, or this stuff right here, these cheap knockoff stuff that was made. That stuff was made in China, but there's no paint apps on it.
Yep.
So that could be made here, you know?
Yeah, I mean, anything that doesn't require, it's the labor where you get really tied up. Like, yeah, molds and stuff are expensive, but molds and stuff are going to be the same price either way, because most of the time you're going to have molds made in China and brought to the States, even if you are doing stuff. Why are you grinning like that? What did you
I was reading Shane's comment.
Okay.
Uh,
So yeah, if you have something that doesn't have to be painted, doesn't have to be assembled, then chances are you can squeak through with an American market. You know, you can do like a model kit kind of thing, or you could do, you know, yeah, like you said, like original, like how GI Joe vehicles came. Like here's the shell, here's the parts, cut them off the spruce, snap them together, put your decals on, you're good. That's still very doable here in the States. It's not as cheap as it would be over there, but you also don't have to worry about any of the headaches. You don't have to worry about labor strikes on the fucking coasts and the receiving ports. You don't have to worry about Somali pirates taking down the ship where your container was on. You don't have to worry about fucking Chinese New Year. You don't have to worry about any of that.
I am
shit.
G.I. Joe now.
Yeah. Hey, look at me. I am General Hawk now. Yeah, you don't have any of that shit.
Right. So there's so much. Rowdy just made a comment about toy collecting and the economy, and that is very true because that's your money, right, and how you want to spend it. So we're not, you know, we're taking away. People have to have food. They have to have a place to live. Okay, so what other money do they have, and what are they going to spend it on? So you're not just talking about toy collecting. You're also talking about people that tweak their cars, right? So the aftermarket automobile market. You're talking about people that go fishing, buy bass boats every couple of years to do a couple of tournaments a year, but that's their hobby. That's what they want to do with it.
There's thing.
People buying 4-wheelers and you know, side by sides. So those are all scalable.
Race cars just to run strip and street tracks through 3 months out of the year. You know, like
sure. They spend their whole year saving up
a
couple of months, and that's what they do. Fishermen do that. People that love sports and get season tickets to games or to teams, like so all of those things, and toy collecting is part of that. Even though as mainstream as toy collecting has become in the last 10 years, people don't really see that as like, oh, your toys are going to be affected. Well, hey man, if my toys are going to be affected, everything's going to be affected. You know, toys are a perfect like example of things made in all kinds of different places that all kinds of different people might want. The toy industry is a really good reflection of that. So yeah, it does go hand in hand with the economy because it tells you what people are and are not willing to spend money on.
Sure.
So yeah, you can have a name like G.I. Joe and be like, I know you guys will buy everything we make. It doesn't matter. And I have the ability to say, okay, but I'm not buying that one.
Right.
I'm not going to buy a party set with G.I. Joe printed on the little plastic forks because it says G.I. Joe. Like, no.
Yeah.
No. I'm having a kids party, sure, but you know, I'm not gonna buy everything you put out.
As a collector, I'm not gonna get that shit.
But you look at a company like Jazzwares that like so many different markets. Like those guys just said like, okay, we're gonna start here and then we're gonna go here. Oh, we got a license here now. Now we're doing this. Like that company is just fascinates me. They are, and they seem to be pretty good at picking a toy to make, and even if they have to push it, like creating the fan base for that toy, like Squishmallows. I don't care, but man, there's kids love that stuff.
You can still sell toys to kids, but you have to sell toys to kids, not sell them to adults and blame kids because they're not interested.
Somebody hasn't had their Brondo today.
You mean some extra big ass fries? Yeah. Well, I didn't.
I know, Rowdy. I feel that too. Like I'm still gonna buy stuff. Like even when I don't have a lot of money, I'm still gonna find a way to buy something. I just like it.
Yeah, it's can I get that dopamine hit?
Now, see, Brad, that's something worth thinking about having made in China. IKEA is here to help.
Yes.
That fits IKEA's model, right? Like
Yeah.
everything can fit in like a little tiny apartment. Like that is a perfect space-saving device. Now you can use your bathroom to hang clothes in, or to have a
Yeah.
3D shop, 3D printer shop in your
Yeah.
bathroom. You can use
Perfect.
your recliner that you're already sitting in front of to watch TV as your toilet.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they don't have that yet. Really?
Yeah.
They probably haven't seen the movie.
Nah, maybe not. Maybe not. You go on their website and search for the
Suggest. Have you
the
guys
shits and
thought about?
doors.
Have you guys thought about a recliner with an integrated toilet in it? That would be a really good
No,
idea.
ew, why would we do that? Like, never mind. It's a movie. It's a movie thing. Now that I am sure is something very, very frustrating. You see it from a really like a shocking amount of Australians and Kiwis that are in this toy community that really, really feel for. So Guatemala, you have my condolences.
For sure.
That sounds
I
incredible.
can't believe it. But that just that's just a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier with the scalability of what you can afford and what you can't afford. When toys get out of the price range completely, then maybe your only choice is Final Faction toys at Dollar Tree. It happens.
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
I'm gonna guess it's because of how many I bought, Rowdy.
Tried to put him out of business.
They are hard to ship. They come in 2 boxes, and it's just easier if you know somebody that lives in a town with an IKEA to have them buy them and go pick them up. But that's true with all of their glass displays. They pack them very well, but it makes me nervous to ship anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no care in shipping. There's no care.
See, Brad.
Yep, absolutely. That's crazy. $60 bucks. That's absurd.
Phew.
There ain't no way.
I couldn't do it.
No.
I couldn't do it. I'd pick like maybe 2 figures every year, and that's what I'd buy. That'd be it.
I'd buy everything from AliExpress from the Chinese places and just have them just ship it down to me instead of zigzagging around the globe.
For sure.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. I'll jump on in. Yeah, didn't think we'd be getting into economics, but here we are.
Yeah, the worst thing about, I think that they just costed themselves out of that because the Detolf was such a great bargain. I remember when it was only $50, and it was such a good deal. But they didn't, because of when it was designed and when it was made. The lighting options in it are pretty poor. So they just got bigger and better things. Plus, when they were getting ready to move the price up to $80, I think people just stopped buying them because it's like, okay, it's not worth $80.
Right.
They were about $60 for a long time, and that's pretty cheap for a full 4-tier display with a glass opening door on it. It's decent.
Absolutely. I like their cubes and their floating shelves.
Yeah.
So, well, we've been going for about 2 hours. So I guess we probably wrap it up, huh?
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. Need to shout out to our 3D modeling buddies. I think they're coming on at 11, aren't they?
Yep. Yep. The 3D printing G.I. Joe podcast. I think they're talking about a like a 1/6 scale, as the flag was 1/18 scale.
Is 1/6 what they're talking about? No, they said a 12-foot. I just assumed that was classified scale.
That's what I meant. Sorry, 1/12, not what. Yeah, yep, absolutely. That is what they're talking about today, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so they're going to be talking about a classified scale flag on their show.
That. Yep.
Pretty good guys over there. Talk about a lot of different things, but they mostly talk about 3D printing, and they get into some pretty deep stuff about printers and materials and all that too. And their chats usually have some pretty good conversation starters in there for that kind of stuff if you're interested in that. It is cool.
Oh,
they usually show stuff that is going to be coming that you don't even know somebody's working on it, and those guys are working on it. Classic vehicles and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Brad, we do. I'd be happy to do that sometime.
There you go. Like that.
Brad actually lives, for the chat, Brad actually lives here in Springfield, Missouri, where I live. So it's kind of cool. I didn't even meet him until that Peddler Post show in Bolivar. And it was just kind of funny to find out there's somebody close like that.
Absolutely. Put the DFW link in the chat there too.
Keep an eye on there. If you're not following that, follow it, because we'll have more developments coming up in a few weeks, maybe a month. I'd like to get Greg on here with us to talk about the stuff that we're working on. There's stuff we've talked about, and then Greg and I are working on another project. Oh yeah, sorry, Brad.
Real nice.
I'm terrible.
Yeah.
You're lucky I didn't have your street address, because I would have said hey, we're exactly 1.2 miles from each other.
You're way more than 1.2 miles away from each other.
I know we are. I was just I'm throwing off the docks. Yeah. I always like to talk about where I'm at, because I feel like Springfield is the middle of the country, almost.
Well, and as a G.I. Joe fan, Springfield's incredibly relevant. That's always fun. Yeah. So stuff for me, I've got Monday night, I'll be on with Yojo Jerk and Gaines. It'll be the three of us and Ted from Hella Dope Toys. That'll be cool. Check that out. Thursday, of course, we'll be figuring it out. 9:00 Central Time on Zakanan's channel. Make sure you check that out. And Zakanan and I have been kind of talking about me doing a short live stream maybe on Wednesday, just kind of like a tips and tricks, customizing kind of a show. Maybe it being kind of a reoccurring show, like a weekly, where I just focus on a build, and maybe the build is the assault trooper. Do one of those
there, Mikey. This just so you guys know, this is how this stuff comes. This is how we sell it at shows. You need everything you need in the pack. The decal's in its own package so that it doesn't.
And this white piece down here is foam for the helmet, so you can kind of put it in there so it sits on the head right, doesn't get not loose or nothing. That was just kind of something that we came up with when we were doing the kits. So just a little something extra we threw in there. So yeah, that's what we got going on. This is Zach, appreciate it. Put that in there too. That's the link for Thursday night show. So that's kind of something him and I kind of talked about last night a little bit, about doing something that was kind of a live Q&A while we customize. So he might be helping me out with chat, so I can just paint and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, something. Sorry, Shane. Sorry. Yeah, so that's what we got coming up. You got anything coming up, Pop?
No.
Longbow gonna be anywhere soon, other than next month at Zolo, potentially?
I don't think so. That one was kind of a pop up that decided to go. I think just because of scheduling worked out for them, so they were able to set something up.
Trying to get a free meal out of Ben. That's probably what it was.
Probably. I don't know. I doubt that it's that simple, but the Skeletron is a really good partner. So
I'm sure it's not. No, they're fantastic. I hope everybody I know. I think Val is going to be at that one, so I hope everybody can just get along and not take it out on the fans. That'd be cool.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Hey, I was going to shout out to Vala, because Bobby's been doing these shows where he's going to Walmarts and talking about how the toy aisles look and about different toys. It's a pretty cool little thing he's been doing. He talks about like stuff we were talking about earlier, about the manufacturing aspect of things. If you watch those shows, you can see kind of where my brain is going when Bobby's talking about that. Looking at the toys that are out there and the value and perceived value of packaging and stuff like that. Some pretty good stuff there, and stuff that we always, as just toy collectors, rant about Walmarts. Like he goes to 2 Walmarts, like they're just a few miles apart in another town, and how the selection and prices can be completely different. But he's done I think 2 shows now on the Walmart thing. It's been pretty entertaining to watch. But just Bobby's knowledge of customer facing product is really good, and in those shows he really shines at that. You can kind of see where he's coming from on packaging and stuff like that. So they're interesting. So if you guys do watch Bobby's channel, that is the latest few episodes have been really good.
Very cool. Another inside look into that stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah, my background is manufacturing and design, like from a mechanical design. Bobby is a designer and a product, specialist. So he really has a different viewpoint on those things than I do, because I see it from the guys on the production floor and how they view those things, how things are put together at that level. So it's just it's nice. It's always nice having different points of view on product development, manufacturing, things like that, especially if you're a toy person. And we talked a lot about how that reflects economy and stuff like that. Like seeing that stuff from the angle of the guys and girls that actually are involved in those things, even if it's not necessarily toys, but people that are actually involved in manufacturing, that are involved in design and development. Seeing the different points of view, even among people that may have, similar crossover talents. It's just, I think it's good. It's good to be educated. It's good to know other people's opinions on things like that and their knowledge, and to share their knowledge. It helps, because being right in the middle of America, I also do not have a lot of knowledge about life on the West or East Coast, but so it's always good to have different viewpoints, and I know the toy community thing is kind of a joke, but in our sandbox, it's good to have a pretty good knowledge of how we get our product and how it gets developed and what it takes to get it in our hands.
Sure. Absolutely. Yep. Totally agree. So on that note, everyone, appreciate you so much for watching.
Thanks for the chat, guys.
Appreciate the engagement. That was very, very appreciated. We were set on having about 4 people this morning, so you guys really surprised us with this one.
Yeah, we figured it would be like a 3 to 4 ratio of family members. So it was kind of like, oh, we got some people popping on.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
So we appreciate it, and I hope
awesome.
you got something out of it. So,
absolutely. And we're gonna be better about doing these a little more regularly, especially right now coming up into what will be show season in just a few months. That's not really something I want to think about, but it is definitely happening. So we'll be doing these at least every few weeks or so. We want to do one of these and I catch you guys up on our progress. So if you liked this, if you like the idea of that, please, like, subscribe, follow John, follow me on the socials.
Hey, if anybody is interested in buying any of those kits, just message me on Facebook.
Yeah, link is in the description for his Facebook. Just message him if you wanna get into those, and
that stuff's ready to ship. So if somebody wants it, I can ship it out the next day.
Absolutely. So that being said, Pop, any closing thoughts?
No. Again, I do appreciate everybody coming and engaging. I like when the chat and people are involved. I like hearing what other people have to say. It's fun, and it makes what we're trying to do feel like we're on the right track, and also it kind of shows us where we might want to go from here. So
yeah,
it's very informative, and I like doing it.
Absolutely. Well, I agree with that. So you guys like it, let us know in the comments below. Until next time, you have a good one, okay?
Game over, man. It's game over.
Eat my short.
Go f yourself.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Flush that turd down the drain. Avenge me! Avenge me!
Thank you. Thank you.